Hello, Mona. We are live.
Happy New
Uh,
Year's again.
yes, Happy New Year's again.
Day seven.
So far, huh?
Is
Is
this
it
the
is
new?
it day seven?
I
Day
believe so.
seven.
Of the
Yeah,
new year.
we're 7 days into 2026. All right.
Whoop, whoop.
So, guys, huh? So tonight,
I say whoop, whoop.
tonight we're connecting the dots from City Hall to Project 2025, and we're asking a question too many people avoid. Who's actually watching Black interests? Joining us will be Rodney Jones, founder of Business Plans Plus, bringing a grounded, no nonsense perspective on policy, power, and what these decisions mean for the Black communities and for Black businesses right now. So, this isn't talk just for talk's sake. It's about what's happening, what's coming, and what we need to be paying attention to before it's too late. Rodney said we need to sound the alarm. So I want you guys to stay with us. We're about to go into the countdown. And what we need you to do while we're doing the countdown is to share us on Facebook. You should find us, share on YouTube. And we should be back in about, I would say, a minute. So here we go with the countdown.
To the Black Independent, where we speak truth to power, unapologetically.
For too long, the black vote has been treated like a given, but we're not property. We're not pawns. We are the descendants of those who built this nation. And now, we're demanding tangibles, not tokenism, because the era of blind loyalty is over. This is the Black Independent. Let's get to work.
Let's get to work, Mona. Let's get to work.
Welcome back. Let's get to work. And we have a lot of work. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Did you see what happened in Minnesota? I know you've been busy all day. And when I got
Something happened
home,
today? Something
yeah,
happened today?
something happened tragic in Minnesota. ICE was doing what ICE do. Did you hear that?
I
Yeah.
did
So
about shooting. Yes, I did hear about that.
yeah, I mean, it is going to be scary out here, for the people, not just for blacks, but for the people, and we got to all realize that because this
But
was a white, 37-year white woman
well,
in her
what were the
car, shot in the head.
right? And because she got in her car to kind of run them over, I kind of briefly
Well,
got it. Was pretty busy
yeah,
today.
I seen a little bit of the video. It didn't seem like she was trying to run them over. It seemed like she was trying to move, but it seemed like the officer was trying to open the door to stop her, and she was just, I don't know. She seemed like she was trying to leave.
Okay,
I
I'm.
just think it warrants fatal um, execution.
Okay.
That
So here's what I'm going to say to that. Um, it seems like white folks are getting black folk treatment, right? It used to
because
be
all it
that
did
we
was remind
got shot
me.
just like that. Now they are getting shot. That as you tell that story, I'm like, ooh,
Mhm.
white folks getting black folk treatment now. Hmm.
Yeah, it reminds me of what was a young man? I think his name was Michael Brown. When during the pandemic, when all the upheat, the focus was brought there. I think that was
Hmm.
where he was from. All right, but at either rate, 37. I say Jesus. Okay, let's get into it
Okay.
tonight. We're going to take a deep, Jeanette. We're going to take a deep look into why Resolution 568 failed and why reparation must remain a top priority for African American voters. So that means everybody who want I vote, this has to be at the top of our wants, demands. I don't know how you want to say it, but it has to be considered at the top. And we
Mhm.
also going to unpack the role of the Black Caucus. In my opinion, I just don't see them really pushing for the people they say they represent. And the potential impact of Project 2025 will have on the Black community nationwide.
Hmm.
And that is what Rodney Jones want to sound the alarm about.
Oh,
So joining us.
so Rodney's joining us tonight, and
Mhm.
he is the founder of Business Plans Plus. A lot of you guys out there by now should be familiar with Business Plans Plus. Well, Rodney is the founder, and let me tell you, he's a longtime friend, and he is very opinionated. Sometimes we don't agree. We do, but when we don't, it's pretty evident. So what I love is he's our returning guest. So a few weeks ago, when you were in New York, Rodney joined me, and I got to tell you, he brings a grounded strategic lens to the issues of the day. And right now, he's feeling like there's a sense of urgency out there that needs to be happening that is not. So
Yeah.
tonight he'll share his perspective on what current local and national decisions mean for Black communities, Black-owned businesses, and long-term economic positioning. This isn't a theory, folks. It's insight that's going to be rooted in experience. All three of us have experience in these areas of being Black. So we're glad to have Rodney back on board. Welcome, Rodney.
Happy New Year to the both of you, Jeanette and Mona. Great to see both of my great friends. And thank you for the opportunity to come back a second time and kind of share, exchange, battle a little bit. That's always interesting and fun. But more importantly, to create awareness about things that are impacting the community. So thank you so very much for inviting me back.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for always accepting. We're going to jump right into it because we got a lot to unpack tonight, and you're going to help us unpack it. We have a couple of videos, but the first topic will be Resolution 568. And Tampa acknowledged documented harm that the city itself caused to its Black community. Now, this was not a federal policy. This was a local policy. It was something that the city council did. It was within the authority of the city council. But when Trump came into office, I don't know if it was the mayor that shut the resolution down, blaming the federal government and the political climate at the time of the governor, but whatever, I just don't think that city council did enough to keep it moving. And one of our citizens came up with a solution. Let's, Jeanette, you want to play that first clip?
Yes, I can definitely do that. Let me make sure I go to the.
It was asked of all the students to write the word trust on a piece of paper. So we wrote the word trust on a piece of paper. As you can see, you all have one, is up there. And when we wrote the word trust on the piece of paper, it was then asked of us all to ball it up. And when we balled it up, the then question was asked to unravel it. So we unraveled it. And what we learned was that once you destroy someone's trust, you can't get it back to its original state. Currently, that's what we feel in the Black community. We don't trust what you say from your diocese. For several months, colleagues and I sat in a room in an office over in Tampa, and we developed this document. Many pages. The last page said May 13, 2025. And we have asked the question after this meeting was, where do we go from here? I had a conversation with one of the city council members, one of the attorneys, and an aide, and I said, hey, listen, you either don't want to improve upon this situation with Resolution 568, or you're taking it personal in some category, because I offered a solution. I did today, I went and done some research again today, because I'm like, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm bass backwards with this. And I asked ChatGPT, I said, hey, ChatGPT, don't ask Perplexity. It's much better. I said, Perplexity, does resolution number 568 and state statute 163, chapter 3 of the CRA, are they synonymous? And it said, hell yeah. Both of them meet slum and blight. You have to be taking it personal to say, okay, the federal government said we can't do this, but the same federal government says the CRA. So which rule do you want to not apply? You don't want to stand by. It has to be personal in some regards. I watched a guy last night on Facebook, and he said, America and white people are synonymous. So you're not an American if you're not white. So I stand before you to tell you, try to figure out how to get this back. It will never get back in this original text, because you had us standing here for a year and 6 months and we got nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk, are the online speakers, is the video online?
Wow, Rodney.
Yeah.
Everyone said
What? I took it down.
you did, but it still plays on my end. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. What say you, Rodney? Because
Well,
in my opinion, when he offered that solution, I don't know if they have researched it, looked into it or not, but we haven't heard anything. And do you think Resolution 568 was just symbolism, or just something to say that they recognize the harm, but they didn't want to dive deeper? And if that's the case, everybody is grown. We should just say that instead of wasting people time.
yeah. Oh, Mona, I actually completely agree with what the young man was talking about. And I can't remember his name, but I've met him before on a couple of occasions. But I'm getting old.
His name's Daryl.
What was Daryl's last name?
Daryl Heish.
Yep. I've met Daryl before, and conceptually, he's absolutely right. Here's a perspective, and I actually sent this when City Council Chairman Vieira made the announcement and kind of talked about the rationale. In essence, what it really said was that the Trump administration is using their power and using part of the Project 2025 playbook to shut down these types of initiatives. And the city, through the advice of the attorney, kind of said, okay, so our hands are tied, so we're going to have to kind of shut down anything, or else we're going to lose funding. That was that was their rationale for that. Here was what I said and what I wrote to Chairman Vieira. I said, throughout the history of this country, African Americans have struggled and fought for equality, struggled and fought for equality at a cost. And I went out, I did some research. You heard Brother Heiss talk about researching some stuff on ChatGPT. Well, I did some back of the napkin research myself to see what the financial impact was for African Americans who, for example, during the civil rights movement, lost their job because they may have boycotted or participated in a protest. African American returning soldiers who were denied the full benefits of the GI Bill. They struggled and they pushed back at a huge cost. Unfortunately, the city of Tampa, and there's no better way to say it, they cowered to the Trump administration. And that's that and again, a lot of that was part of the initiatives driven by what we'll talk about a little bit later on, which was Project 2025.
Well,
I
let
do
me ask
think that just really
let
quick.
me ask you. Let me ask you this, particularly because Councilman Vieira is an attorney who often speaks on justice and equality, and
Yeah.
did not fight to keep 568 alive. Do you think that was just a way for them to get out of it?
No. I think
That's my opinion, because
okay.
Darrell said that was ways around it, no matter what the government had put in place.
Yeah, I agree that there are. I don't think that the concept around 568 we should consider dead. The council may think that, politicians may think that, but if you start thinking and we start thinking creatively, there are probably some methodologies and some ways for us to achieve the same kinds of things at the risk of losing federal funding. And maybe the CRA is actually, to Darrell's point, the mechanism to pull from local revenue streams to support local initiatives like some of the concepts around 568 to move things forward. So I don't think that we should look at it as being dead. I do think that there's maybe some creative ways that we could figure out some ways to kind of get around it. And by the way, Councilman Vieira is a good man. I consider him a personal friend of mine. He understands the history of the struggle with Black and Brown people, but at the same time, unfortunately, like a lot of local municipalities, we conceded to the bullying of the Trump administration in terms of taking back some of their funding allocation under the threat of not funding some of the programs and stuff. And that's garbage. That's unacceptable.
So you're saying 568 is not dead until we say it's dead.
Exactly.
Then, rather than relying on the politicians to tell us what the agenda needs to be, which is what we typically do. And if not for Darrell Heisch, Connie Burton, just two people in particular that come to mind, it would have been dead a long time ago.
I agree.
Real dead.
Yeah.
Now, so this next iteration is the council saying, okay, we made these promises, but you know what? We can't. They did a preemptive, I'm calling it a preemptive cowering, as did many people across the country.
Right.
Tampa is definitely playing in that field, that Trump, I'm the boss, you do what you think that I want.
Or face the consequences.
Before I even tell you. So I like what you're saying relative to 568 does not have to be dead. And if that commission, what if they still what if they're still meeting on that, on the issues, still carrying it forward as if you can't tell us what the agenda is, we're going to tell you. And they continue meeting, even if they even continue using county taxpayer space. Maybe this is something that we can learn from, that they can kill a bill or a resolution, but we don't have to acquiesce. We don't have to say, oh, okay. We continue moving that agenda. And if that's the case, you're bringing it up at every council meeting. That's just my thinking when you get into your creative end of let's figure out what we can do.
So the great
I'm
thing,
gonna have the final word on that, and then we're gonna move to the next one. Because what I know, and Rodney, you could tell me if I'm wrong or not. There has been many things that the government has probably said that the city could not do it this way, and the city attorneys, the think tanks got together and figured out a way to make that same thing happen, but happen different.
I agree, and the proof is in the pudding.
So that's my point.
Yeah.
If they wanted this to happen, it could have happened. It could have continued to move forward. But I do like the fact that you
I
said.
know you want to move.
that is-
I know you want to move
Absolutely.
forward, but I'm going to say if they wanted civil rights to not
Sure.
happen, right?
Sure. Sure.
The push has got to come from the people. The
Mhm.
people have got to push them whether they want it or not. And I think that's what's happening here, but that's what happened with the civil rights movement. That's what happened with emancipation. The push came from outside to force politicians to move in the way that they need to. And Tampa needs to learn that lesson and start moving things forward.
And the push also have to come to candidates to know that we will not no longer be taken advantage of. And we have to show this push by our vote.
Yeah.
Agree.
They're all up
Agree.
for election. And those that
Agree.
want to move forward, we some of these things have to be in the pros and the cons when we
Agree.
give them a grade.
That's
Because
true.
this is a big fail. This is a big fail for them.
That is true, but your vote means very little if you only have, in a 44,000 voter district, only have 5,000 people voting.
True.
Especially
We're gonna work on that.
All right.
We're gonna
Rodney's trying to say something, and I know how we like to go back and
Yeah,
forth.
the reason I'm saying I don't think that, and you can label it anything you want to, whether it's resolution 568 or anything. The good news is this: there was a bunch of talent on that committee, some brilliant folks, some folks who have been boots on the ground for a long time. And what should not happen is for that momentum to stop because the government says, "Hey, we can't do anything." Think about this. As a community, this community has been able to find money for baseball stadiums, football stadiums, soccer stadiums, right? So you can label it and call it anything you want to. There's more than one way to skin a cat. But I would say that my final perspective on that is that pool of talented folks, brilliant minds, needs to hang in there and work on, because again, all it was framework, right? The hard work that has to happen is around putting together process, putting together solutions moving forward where we don't have to count on the government to implement for us. They can assist, but not necessarily have to implement it for us. That's stuff that we can do.
Agree.
Yeah.
I can say more, but I'm gonna go ahead. Move us on.
I know. I think what happened. Because I would love to discuss this more too. But I think what happened, we tried to pack a lot of things. It's 2 hours, right?
Yeah, but
So
yeah,
we'll continue to talk. We'll continue to talk about these things. They're just an introduction for the new year. Next, we're gonna move into reparation and why reparation got to be at the top and the most priority for African Americans voting in the midterms and in 2028. You want to play that second video first?
I should have been like getting ready to do that, but y'all have to, let's see, stop and and the second video.
Diabolical, wretched behavior. But as I did this research, I noticed, again, two things. the money, when you follow it, points north. And I also noticed that abolitionists, Southern enslavers themselves, and observers at that time, the time of enslavement, were saying the same thing. Slavery is not making the South rich. It is actually impoverishing the South. Why? We can get into this in a minute. It's because plantations borrowed and borrowed and borrowed debt and financing from Wall Street banks and Boston banks to make this whole system run. And so when I looked at enslavement, I wanted to say we should look at it as a wealth generating system. And if we do that, who actually made the money? You have to look outside of the South to arrive at that answer.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to get into some of these points. And even thinking more broadly, David, when we think of slavery, we think of plantations, Woodlawn Plantation, Maidwood, Whitney, so forth and so on. We might also know about the names of the families that owned and operated these plantations. We might think about, and we should think about, I think, the enslaved people who liberated themselves and worked to liberate others. We might think of the Confederates who fought to keep this all going. But what we might not think about very often, and I certainly wasn't taught where I went to school, we don't often think about, when it comes to slavery, names like Bank of America, New York Life, Lehman Brothers, Brooks Brothers, Citibank, Aetna. Why is it important for us to know and think about these companies in particular and others like them and the men who derived their fortunes from these companies? Why is it important to know those names along with the other names that we hear about when it comes to slavery in the U.S.?
A couple of reasons. One is, I think we should understand the institution of slavery being a wealth-generating system for white people, essentially a business, would not have functioned without those northern corporations, northern names that you just mentioned. Those northern corporations, those northern men were just as complicit, just as involved, and profiting just as much, though they escaped the burden of censure, the burden of being outed, whereas a lot of attention was put on southern plantations and southern enslavers. So they're part of the story. They're an indelible part of the story, especially when we look at the wealth and who made it and what they did with it. And that is important because the system of enslavement may have ended in the South, and it may have ended in 1865, but these corporations and those men, for decades leading up to the abolition of slavery and the Civil War, were investing money from enslavement, investing profits that they were making from enslaved people's labor into industry, into other corporations, into the coal fields of Pennsylvania and railroads. My point is that money never died. It never went away. It was transmuted by those people on Wall Street or in Boston into forms of institutional wealth that still survive. So we should know who they are, because I would argue they're the primary beneficiaries of this diabolical system, this heinous.
Wow, Jeanette.
I know. I used to wear when I started out in corporate America. I used to wear Ann Taylor was my thing, but my other thing was Brooks Brothers.
Yes.
I wore me some Brooks Brothers suits. Let me tell you, they had the pads in them and all that. And I thought I was all that in a bag of chips walking down those halls at Tampa General Hospital, and then later another. But it's wild to me to understand.
Didn't realize they was funding your enslavement, your ancestors. Didn't realize that.
They created Brooks Brothers. They were the ones who created the slave wear and the butler wear and all of
really?
Right. the whatever I'm calling them butlers, but whatever the man for the they were creating those things and the slave wear, all of that. They were creating those.
Making money hand over fist. Making money hand over fist.
Making money hand over fist. And
it is unbelievable for us to be knowing this, finding this out. And this is where I have a problem with, particularly the Black Caucus, and the Democratic Party.
Mhm.
For years
Yeah.
now, for years, reparation has been discussed, studied, and delayed, right?
Mhm. Yes, it has.
And so I think when I start really looking at it in 20, and I can't remember if it was 13, something like that, at what point
Mhm.
does all this continue studies become dodging,
Mhm.
shunning,
Mhm.
eluding? How could they string us along this far? And I'm talking about the Democratic Party and the Black Caucus.
Okay,
So,
and I really want to hear from Rodney on that.
yeah, I'm
And
going to say, so Rodney,
I want,
do
I
you believe
want
the
people.
Democratic Party is genuinely committed?
Okay, wait. Okay, wait. I really want to hear from Rodney because we kind of speak from the same perspective on this one. But I also want you guys to be able to connect what is happening with 568, you know, that says, hey, you know what, we need to look at this. And what happens typically in the Democrat Party, even when it comes to any kind of repair or any kind of study that has to do with dealing with our past and whatever financial ties might ensue as a result. I'm curious.
We're tired, but we're tired of studies. All the studies have been done. Now we just need to know how to implement it. Look in our description for a book called Framework to Reparation. It's in the description. And any of these videos, if you want to look at them in the full context, it is in the description as well. Rodney?
I don't know what do you.
Well, I'm glad you asked. So thanks. First and foremost, I want to be really, really crystal clear with this, is that conceptually, I absolutely agree and support with reparations.
Right.
Just
Sound like a butt. Sound like a butt.
Here it comes.
Sound like a butt.
The issue is that a couple of things. Number one, Mona, I definitely do not agree that there is consensus around what that looks like. Excuse me, sorry. There's not consensus in the Black community as it relates to what that looks like in terms of the implementation. I absolutely.
When did we ever have total consensus? It's enough consensus. Yes, it is. It's enough studies. People have consented. What are you looking for? It is. It's a lot of studies been in. Actually,
so
get the book on reparation. Framework reparation. It lays it out.
Okay, gotcha. So a couple things. As we know, because we've discussed this before, there are at least 3 major tipping point issues that have to be sorted out as it relates to that. Now, think about this, and I got to go back to 2 things. Number one, I firmly disagree that the Democratic Party, and specifically the Black Caucus, has not done anything as it relates to reparations. In fact, the only 2 proposed pieces of legislation around reparations was presented by who?
What you talking about? HR 40, almost 40 years ago, if not 30 years ago. HR 40, it's been around since I think I really came aware of HR 40, and then it died out in my 30s.
Okay, so
35, over 32 years ago.
Okay, but I'm talking about HR 414. HR 414. That was last year, and basically it was a derivative from HR 40. But again, HR 40.
That's the thing.
Let me finish this. Let me finish this, please. HR 40 was recommissioned by President. Now, let me ask you guys this.
By who?
Hold on.
HR 40 was
let me ask this question.
Who?
Let me ask this question.
Who was HR 40? Whatever you just said.
HR 40.
Yeah, who?
HR 40 was recommissioned by whom is what she's asking. You were about to say, but it didn't come. It wasn't clear.
Yeah, basically that was the commission it was asking for funding to talk about what that thing should look like. Funding the study, what that thing should look like. Yeah, that was no, he did not. That's not the okay. Anyway, so I'm not going to. We can find that out. We can research that and we'll find that out. But here's my point. Here's my point. I hear that the Democrats haven't done anything or the Black Caucus hasn't done anything. What have Republicans done?
But we're not
hold on,
voting for
and let me
Republicans.
finish. Let me
We're not
finish.
voting for Republicans. The
Okay,
majority of black people are
and-
voting for Democrats.
Okay,
The Republicans haven't done anything and they're trying to block it. But when we have the power, Democrats should have made it happen.
when we have the power.
Yes, under Biden, under not Biden, under Obama, under Clinton, and under since I've been voting, and under Biden.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
I don't want to say what the Republicans aren't doing because the Republicans aren't getting what the Republicans at one time was only getting maybe 2% of black votes.
Right. So moving forward, they are in control. We have to change that. I think we'd agree with that, right? Republicans are in control.
No,
We-
I don't agree with that because we're gonna change it for what? Most studies?
What
we don't have enough studies.
Republicans would vote to approve reparations?
No,
Am I
but
missing
then
something?
that's been the last 40 years that it's been that we've been talking about it.
I want to interject in here somewhere, give y'all a little breathing room back in your corner. So, and Rodney and I have had this conversation before, and he knows that I'm more on your side, although I will say that HR 40 has been out there for a while. I do believe the two parties are two sides of the same coin. They do not really want to move it forward.
They who?
The Republicans, they being Republicans and Democrats,
White-
really
white
do
men,
not want
white
this to
men. White
do not want this to come to fruition. On the Republican side, and I'll use Mitch McConnell as the standard bearer for their position, there is no way on this side of heaven that will ever happen. It's a non-starter, he said, and he meant it. And that is the sentiment in general from the Republicans. And anytime I'm commenting about Jasmine Crockett just said something about some version that she put out there, and I read through the comments and I'm commenting like crazy, and they're like putting the laughing emoji every time I comment.
Yeah.
I know how the Republicans feel. I get out there in the chats and talk about it.
Yeah.
I salute her for even sticking her toe in, given that she's running for the Senate. But it's a hot issue that most Black politicians, let alone white, but Black politicians are not touching with a 10-foot pole.
Mm-hmm.
Democrats are not as transparent about their not wanting HR 40 to pass. They are a little bit more, they use tactics like delay, study. They let it get so far and then it falls. And then it's even when they're in power, and Mona and I don't always agree that just because it's all Democrats doesn't mean things are going to pass, because you've got Democrats that are blue dog Democrats that will never pass anything.
Well, we saw what happened in California under Gavin Newsom. We saw what happened there, right?
You saw what happened in California. You see what's happening in Maryland. It is a hot button issue that is the kiss of death for politicians. We see what's going on with 568. They even understand this. They even understand this. And even though they said, oh, let's put together this commission, whatever else, I think in the back of their heads, they're figuring out, how do we get out of this? How do we get out of this? And as soon as they had the opportunity, they did. Because reparations for Black people, I'm not talking about for the Japanese, I'm not even talking about for any white group, but for Black folks in America, it is a hot button issue, and it is a sure issue that will get white people to vote against you. And Black people know this. We know this. Even though I'm on your side that we need to put it out front and center, but I do know the peril it puts Black Democrats in, or white, but especially Black Democrats, in making that their
Primary platform.
correct. That's correct. I think
That's
that
right.
it's time for us to do that, but I understand where you're coming from on what you're about to tell us with regard to your position.
I just have one, and trust me, I cannot tell you guys how much I enjoy this kind of stuff. Mona, you know, I love going back and forth with you because that's healthy and it provides engagement with people. Everybody doesn't always have to agree, but it also is a microcosm of the greater community, right? It's also a microcosm of the greater community. So I love going back and forth with both you guys as it relates to that, because it is a way to kind of maybe look at some consensus building in terms of moving forward. So as I said before, I agree with reparations. My personal opinion is that reparations needs to be number two. Number one needs to be stopping the implementation of Project 25, because that feeds the Project 2025 cuts off the lifeblood as it relates to voter engagement, things that can move and change things around voter engagement, political power, that kind of stuff. Now, the other thing that I would say is that and this is going to be breaking news, I have sent to the Congressional Black Caucus a proposal. This is it. I'm going to share it with you guys after I hear back from some of the people that that my brother knows in the Congressional Black Caucus. And it is, believe it or not, a reparations kind of concept, but it ain't called reparations. Think about this.
So why do we have to call it something else?
Think about it. The Affordable Care Act was a reparations bill. Think about it. Affordable Care Act was a reparations bill, but it was rebranded.
Ooh,
And that
Lord.
that was what made it successful. Think about it.
Gosh, I'm gonna think about that. And to your point, let me just say we've got some really good guests joining us, and thank you, Gretchen, for always putting us out there. She joins us all the time, and then she tags a lot of folks. Kevin Maurice Beckham says Rep. Ayanna Presley commissioned it. We were talking about who commissioned under Biden. That was her. Daryl Heisch has joined us as well. Another thing he says, Dems have done nearly enough. Excuse me. Dems haven't done nearly enough on reparations. If you don't have the votes to get it passed, what is the party doing as a whole to change that? I don't know if you want to try to answer that, you guys, but I want to make sure they get in. We get some of the comments in, which I think are pretty good. Daryl sends us a source on NBC News. We can catch up on that at some point. Now, the Democrats. Okay, go with that, and then I want to give my observation because I know you're going to shut us down in a minute for the next conversation.
We still got about 8 minutes on this one.
Okay.
When you say that we have to get in and stop Project 2025, and this is what always happens when we're looking at issues that particularly are concerning to African-American voters. I say, why can't we do both? Because I do believe Project 2025 is an issue. Jeanette and I talked about Project 2025, made it aware when we did it. I mean, constantly for almost 14 months. I did something that I generally wouldn't have done. I voted in that election because I didn't like either one.
I know, but you're into the next subject. And are you staying with reparations, or are you talking about Project 2025?
No, I'm saying he just mentioned that we can't focus on Project 2025 right now. He just made that in his comment that we really have to be laser focused on stopping because you ain't going to stop Project 2025. You're going to either have to reverse it or do something like that. And I'm saying I'm not giving up reparation for that. I'm saying that Democrats got to figure out how they're going to do both. Give me what I want, and we could give you what you want.
Okay,
What do you say about that, Rodney? We can't do both.
I think right now, when you take a look at the impact that Project 2025 and and a couple things. Number one, we African American electorate has been asleep at the wheel. 3 surveys were out. And this one blew my mind. About 35% of African American voters understand the 4 major concepts around Project 2025, and I would say, add to that, that if folks do not understand the impact that 2025 will have on the key to everything that we're talking about, which is black and brown voting power, if we don't understand the impact that Project 2025 is going to have on that, if fully implemented. And by the way, it's about 65% already implemented. If you take a look at some of the concepts of the plan, it's about 65% already implemented. Most of our black electorate don't understand what that means. They can't give me the top 4 things about Project 2025. Isn't that interesting? And that's scary. That's scary.
It is not interesting to me, because it sounds like you're saying that you need us once again to save this party and everybody benefit.
No.
Because we can all suffer. They're suffering too. They're suffering too. Yes, we will suffer the hardest. We'll suffer the worst, but they're suffering too.
Yeah, my perspective is, and Jen, I'll say this and just shut up. It ain't about the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. 2025 is a lot deeper than that. This is like taking this country back to Nazi Germany before the start of World War II.
Yeah,
but it is worse than that.
I understand it. We read the whole thing, Jeanette and I.
So let me ask. Okay, because we're going to get to Project 2025 in just a few minutes, folks. But I want to stay with the fact that you said Project 2025 should be the #1 priority for the Democrats, Black Democrats.
For everybody.
Right, for the Democrats, and then for Black Democrats. And #2 should be reparations. So you mean for everybody on both 1 and 2, right?
No, when I say for everybody, I mean for everyone in the country, whether it's Democrat, Republican, for everyone in this country.
Okay, so you're saying Project 2025 and reparations should be the order in which we prioritize what happens next.
Yes, as we build coalitions to go after that. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so if we
have coalitions right now, do we not have coalitions? We have coalitions.
Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Just a minute. If we cannot get agreement, signed, sealed, and delivered, that we're going to work on 2025, and on the heels of that, because the new iteration of USA cannot go back to what it was, it does have to reprioritize Black folks so we're not always on the bottom of everything. Y'all know my racial hierarchy. White man on the top, Black man on the bottom. If there's not a high level of commitment from everybody, like you said,
all the stakeholders, yep.
How in the world can you expect Black folks to support #1 if we can't get the same level of commitment on #2?
Right.
And we have never been able to get it, ever. So what do Black people do? If we want what you said, #1 to be Project 2025 and #2 is reparations. How do we get #2 so stuck to Project 2025 that we all go out and vote, we defeat Project 2025, and everybody out there says, okay, now let's talk about, don't get on my case. Let's talk about reparations, but let's implement reparations. Let's just talk about, let's look at all the studies and make something happen with reparations. But that should be clearly written out prior to voting, just like Project 2025, the whole way that it will be implemented needs to happen so that 1 and 2 happen like clockwork. This is America. I know America. That ain't gonna happen.
Okay, so
Reparation has to be moved from a conversation to an action plan. That is the only way.
That's
It
that's
has
all.
to be moved, yes, from conversation and study, because we already got it.
I completely agree. As a matter of fact, I think that we really, really do need to come into the fall election and the general election 2 years from now with a platform that clearly includes legislation, not concepts and stuff like that, but legislation for reparations. And
Right.
and the good news is that there's a great case for reparations. This ain't a handout. This ain't. It's a lot more than that. It's actually good for the country for a lot of different reasons. If you take a look at reparations from a perspective of what's in it for me, it's a win for people of color. It's a win for the economy in general. It's a win for housing. It's a win for economic development. It is a huge win for the country. But guess what we have to do? Position it. And guess what we have to do? Write legislation that makes sense. Guess what we have to do? We have to gain consensus on what that looks like, because still to this day, for example, us on this call can't really agree fully on what the concepts are. Who qualifies? Jeanette, you and I have been on the carpet about that.
We already know who qualified.
No, we don't know. That's my point.
Yes, we do.
Don't know. No, because because 20% of the members of the Black Caucus have members that weren't U.S. born, that wouldn't qualify.
And they ain't qualified. That's why they're not pushing it.
Okay,
They're not qualified.
Right there, we all agree. We all agree right
We
there.
already know the limit.
Don't qualify.
And they're not working in our best interest. We're going to go on.
There is agreement.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
here's the problem right here that you just brought up that I've been thinking, hadn't said it out loud. The role of the Black Caucus. And the Black Caucus, do you believe it exists to advocate for Black interests, American Black interests?
What do you think? What's your opinion? What's your opinion, Mona, on that one?
I say no, because I don't know if it's fear, political calculation, or something else.
Okay.
When I really took a deep dive into the National Black Caucus and realized, like you said, did you say 40%? I know it's a high number of non-ADOS members. And I says,
I'm sorry, 20%.
20%. Okay. 20%.
Okay.
And the president right now, I can't remember her name, but she is a non-ADOS member. Yeah, no, she doesn't want to fight for this. She doesn't want to, she calculating, no. And they're getting money from APAC. That's a problem. And we are going to have to change that.
Who's getting money from APAC?
All of them.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so you don't think that the Black Caucus has been the right tool of taking the right approach?
Say that again.
Do you think that the Black Caucus has represented the interests of African Americans?
No, not totally.
What do you think they have? What areas
I don't like when they do all this. We represent everybody. We're fighting for Black and brown. No, you can't do that any longer, because when I looked up other caucus mission statement, they intentionally say they fighting for their people. No, okay. This is why we're stuck where we at, Rodney, in my opinion.
How would you get legislation passed?
Let me answer your question too before you go on to Black Caucus believes that they are fighting for the interests of Black America. Yes, they do. They believe that.
Well, what interests have they fought and won?
Yeah, that's Black Caucus, what do you guys believe? What do you guys believe?
The Black Caucus, however, while they fight for things like health care, as Obama said, well, I'm going to fight for health care and Black people are going to get more Black people are going to have health care. Everybody else will too, but it's really going to help the Black folks. SNAP benefits. You know, Black people, they need SNAP benefits. It's going to help families and blah, blah, blah. Well, it's going to help white people and everybody else too. What Black people are asking for is Black specific policies that address their Black specific needs.
Police
We don't
brutality.
with all that other stuff.
What about
But
police?
there are Black specific harms that need to be addressed. The Black Caucus isn't touching that. Now,
Not true.
wait.
Okay.
Okay.
Hold on,
I'm gonna
Rodney.
let-
Hold on,
I'm gonna
Rodney.
let you go. The Black Caucus puts their fingers on it, but they're not dying on the hill for
Yes.
those things. They are not dying. They get up a little bit, because I even watched them during COVID. They get up there a little bit, and then the white man says, woo, boo, and then come back down.
So if you don't,
Rodney, hold on. I'm gonna answer your question, because we put Biden in office because of one thing. I think that took him over was the George Floyd crime bill,
Right.
police brutality bill,
Right.
and it went nowhere. Nobody fought for it. The Black Caucus didn't make him, because he had the opportunity to do it. But anytime when these white men on the Democrat side said he wanted to reach across the aisle and to have it be a bipartisan bill, that told me right then he didn't want to do it. So hell no, they ain't doing
There's
it.
no way. Yeah.
Because
And anytime he talks about Black reparations, he talks about
Okay.
the indigenous folks. I don't say Indians, they say Indians,
Yeah,
but
okay.
he talks about the indigenous people. And it's
Okay,
like,
so-
no, we're talking about Black
All right.
folks.
Okay.
That's
So
what we're talking about.
Okay, let's be quiet now, and Rodney, you got it.
We'll give the
Go.
floor to
all
Rodney.
I'm saying is that I would invite all of you all to take a look at the legislative initiatives. And here's the thing: if you don't have the votes, you don't have the votes. If you don't
They
have
had
the
the vote.
votes,
They had the vote.
you'll say,
They had
hold
the
on.
vote.
Let me
What,
finish
Rodney?
it.
We can't let you just say
I don't know if they
anything.
had the
because
vote.
they had
Listen,
the vote.
listen.
That's not
Let me finish
true.
this. Let me
Come on.
give you
We
facts.
can't
Hold
let
on.
us say anything.
Let him talk. I don't agree with what he's saying either, but let's let
He
him
said
talk.
if you got the votes, you got the votes. They had the votes.
I heard him.
Not for
I'm not sure.
the George Floyd
He had the
Justice
vote.
and Policing Act of 2025, last year. Did we have the votes? It did.
He had the
It
votes
didn't get out of
when he got in
committee.
there in
It did not get
2024.
out
He
of
had
the
the votes.
committee.
He had the votes when he
No.
first got in.
Okay, so let's do this. We can go back and forth. Let's do this. In today's world, it's very, very easy to go on ChatGPT, find out I invite you all and your listeners to go out on ChatGPT and find out we don't have to go back and forth. Yes or no, yes it did, but let's just take a look at it and find out. Okay, the George Floyd Policing Act. As a matter of fact, my friend revitalized that. Glenn Ivey, he's out of right outside of DC. He's a congressional representative out of Maryland. His name is Glenn Ivey. Take a look at that. He actually revitalized that, and he put his name. He attached his name as a sponsorship. So I know what I'm talking about as it relates to that part. The other thing is that this. Same thing in 2022, where we had really no voting power. What about the Emmett Till, the anti-lynching bill? You know what happened with that? Not one Republican voted for that.
Right.
We're
Not
not
one-
talking about Republicans. I don't care.
If Republicans have the majority in the House, you can't get bills out of legislation. So you guys say, well, the CBC didn't do anything. The bills
You
that they
gotta
were
go in there and
proposing
whip
did
the
not get-
Republicans
did
in
not-
line, just like
Hey guys,
like-
so where the work is
you gotta
in.
go in there and whip them in line, like Trump went in there and whipped the Black
Right.
Caucus
The
who
work.
voted for Charlie Kirk to have a resolution. Are you freaking
work.
kidding me?
Yeah, the work is within the Democratic Party. I'm not going to talk about the Republican parties. You're right. They're in control. Project 2025 is 65-70% right down the road. They're voting party line all the way, right? They're just now having a few breaks over the Epstein file. That's where the dam is starting to break. So we see that. But the Democratic Party is not with Black specific policy making. They just don't do it. If it doesn't help, and that pretty much is that's in the literature. If it doesn't help everybody, right, we'll bring them an issue. If it doesn't, if they can't reframe it to help everybody, they just won't pick it up.
Okay.
And that was true for even integrating the schools and providing funding for Black children to bring them up to par. They had to go back and say, well, you know what, these schools ain't integrating. When was Brown versus Topeka? 1954?
54.
When was the Civil Rights Act? 1965? When did schools begin to integrate? 1970, 71? Right. Why was there a 20-year span? Legislators had to figure out how to change how they talked about it, retitle it, open it up so that poor children, not just Black children, poor children became a part of Title I legislation. And then all of a sudden, white people said, well, okay, right?
Yeah.
That is the problem, and it has been for a long time, but white America meaning white, at that point is a very good one you made earlier, Mona, but white America has figured out how to make Black people feel like they're getting something and they're not. And the Republicans caught on to that. And what they're doing with all of the legislation that has been put in place, they are just slowly ripping them away.
Yeah,
right?
I just,
yes,
but
it's going to hurt some white
Yeah.
folks, but
Okay.
collateral damage. Go
See,
ahead.
I just get concerned when I hear folks say that members of the Black Caucus haven't done anything, because if you look at their, and again, why do you have members of Congress? What are they there to do? They're there to write what? Laws, yes? To write bills. That's what and provides leadership, right? But their only power is their ability to write and advocate bills, right? And so if you take a look at what's been going on in terms of the issues that you all have said that the Democratic Black Caucus doesn't address around reparations, police brutality, mass incarceration, voter suppression, housing, and the racial wealth gap, there are at least on each topic I just talked about, three bills that members of the Congressional Black Caucus have presented. Are you all aware of that?
I can't say that anything is really, when we say anything, haven't done anything, you're right, that's not true. But what we have not done is really push Black specific, Blacks. We are okay with all of those bills. We're fine. Everybody, poor people, white, Black, or indifferent, making people's lives better in general is fine. But when it comes to how do we improve Black life based on their, I would say commensurate with their contribution to making America what it is today, we don't touch that with a 10-foot pole. That is where the issue lies. I will not take away from Black legislators who go out there and legislate for better housing and all of those wonderful things. But we're telling you that we are not moving and correcting the underlying problem with Black folks, and that is the wealth in this country is disproportionate relative to our contribution. And that has to not only be discussed, it has to be remedied. And that is what politicians, Black, white, or indifferent, will not take to, they will not die on that hill. And we need somebody to die on that hill.
So what's the position on with Black independence about in terms of what things that you guys are talking about in terms of how to move the needle?
Say that again.
What's the position of Black independence in terms of the kinds of things that you guys are recommending that can move the needle?
We do believe reparations needs to be top in the top 1, 2, 3. And these, when we say top 1, 2, 3, and what we're asking for, if we look back at Malcolm X and we look back even at Martin Luther King in his last few years of trying to bring the economics in, he even said poor people's campaign. So I understood that he understood the psychology of America not wanting to specifically focus on Black issues. But then you look at ADOS, you look at FBA, and you look at just many of the agendas that has transpired throughout the years, last, I don't know, 50, 60 years, have all pretty much said that Black folks need to be repaired. The remedy for repair does not take Black people off the bottom rung. I'm saying to you, if you ask anybody, Asian, Black, whatever, who's on top, who's on the bottom, right? And this has been for 400 years. Who's on top, who's on the bottom? I'm going to ask you, who's on top of the racial hierarchy and who's on the bottom?
All you have to do is to take a look at them in terms of the wealth gap in the country, and it's clear. It is absolutely clear.
It's clear. It's clear in education. It's clear in health.
Economics.
It's clear across the board on
Yep.
everything. That is a problem that has to be addressed. I mean, it's staring us in the face, but if you touch it, it's the kiss of death politically, which means take it out of the hands of politics and put it into the hands of the people. What's wrong with the people? The people are uneducated, because I'm reading those chats when reparations is the subject, and those white boys and girls and even Black folks are ignorant to how this country was formed and the contribution level. So passing reparations is difficult because the constituents are ignorant of actually what happened and how this country came about, how it became a superpower.
So
Agree completely. I do.
all right, so we're gonna move on to our final.
Ashley corrected me, 1971. I was like 70, 71. 71 is when schools integrated. I remember that. I was coming back from overseas. Remember our democracy and humanity and our forefathers, Gretchen. I just want to kind of hit, when they are John F. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy. I don't know what I was saying at that time, but thank you guys for getting in there. I want to make sure you're recognized. Go ahead.
So the first thing, I'm going to respond to Rodney when you ask, what do you think independent for us, particularly what we're looking at? Right. And I was actually, when I started moving in this direction, I just watched the documentary on the Gilded Age. You remember how that became an independent party and all of that? It's because I just woke up, I think in 2013, 14, and realized where I had just been, like most Black Americans, just voting Democrat. I was doing okay. Either way. I used to always say, because self-employed, it really and sometimes if a Republican was in office, our business did really well. It's just the truth of the matter. Your stocks and all of that stuff was just going through the roof in the 80s. You could probably attest to that. So I just went along to go along. But then I realized in 2013 that a lot of people wasn't doing good, wasn't faring well under the Democratic Party, when we know that about 95% of the African-American voters vote Democrat, no matter what. And we just vote down. And when I started really diving into who was in office, who are these people, what are they thinking about? And I was like, whoa, this isn't really in the best interest of me. That might be in the best interest of the collective, but not for us as a group. But I said that to say that we're going to move into what you really want to talk about: Black voter engagement the like of, accountability, and I'll tell you right now that I do not like when people. I look at Roland Martin, who I think is going to blow a fuse because he is jumping up and down every other day, screaming and yelling about the people who did not, the African Americans who did not vote,
He's
and calling them stupid, simple Simon, and that is not going to get these people to vote. You had nothing on the table for the people to vote for. Even Joy Reid, when she got fired, she said, I'm leaving the Democratic Party. Why is that? Kareem, what was Biden's
Yeah,
Pierre
right.
said, I'm leaving the Democratic Party. I heard nobody say give them any backlash because they didn't get what they want. I don't know why they're leaving the Democratic Party, because all before the Democratic Party was working just well for them
Hey
without
guys.
them push, without them even pushing reparation. I can remember Joy Reid pointing her fingers, telling us to shut up about reparation. You're about to F up my damn job.
Yeah, she was the Joint Economic Committee, just a point you were making. I just wanted to I didn't mean to do that.
No, it's good.
Really gave us job growth by president since Reagan. And you know, when people have jobs, the economy's doing well. So you got red here, Reagan, 16,000. Then you've got H.W. Bush. Then up here, you've got Clinton. Then down here, you got W. Bush. Then you got Obama. We're beating them every term, except maybe Reagan was up there for a bit. But for the most part, Democrats really are the ones who are growing the economy. And as soon as it gets into the hands of the Republicans, we lose.
But when Democrat
Why
is
do
growing
people
the
feel
economy,
that?
do it benefit? Is it really benefiting African Americans? Obviously not.
You mean when, well, I think across the board, African Americans lose out in so many different ways. Our job numbers are always, in terms of unemployment, are always higher as they are to this very day, especially Black women. So yeah.
yeah. So information is power, and that misconception around economies do better under Republican administrations. The slide is basically kind of blows that myth, and I've known that for a minute. But the other piece is this. It really is important to talk about how independence, because at the end of the day, you want to think about this. Think about it this way. Forget the party or the party affiliation or the name. At the end of the day, someone gets into a voting booth to make a decision in terms of who is running for office that best would represent their interest. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, whether it's a Republican, a Democrat, independent, doesn't matter, right? Because I have always rejected the fact that people blindly vote for a Democrat. I'm sorry, I take that back. No, Mona, you are absolutely right. Sometimes people do blindly vote
Absolutely.
for if they are what? Uninformed. If they are uninformed, they absolutely.
That's 60% of all the voters. That is probably 60 to 70, 80%.
And that's by design.
And
that's by design.
But the great thing about what the two of you, and as much as we go back and forth, y'all, I love you all to death. You know why? Because you guys raise awareness and help educate people, as a lot of other podcasts and shows like this. My only recommendation to the world is we have too many what I call knucklehead podcasts that inform people and share just gossip and BS information, and do not do what in my mind is the primary mission of any kind of broadcast medium, which is to inform and educate people. And unfortunately, in our community, and I'm picking on our folk, in our community, a lot of the podcast stuff that we see, that I see anyway, is not about informing people. It's about spreading gossip and talking about this person and that person and throwing shade and all that other crazy stuff during a time when people really need to be educated.
So let me say this in defense of the podcasters. It's really how I really came up to it. And I started listening to some of their demands because I was an avid Roland Martin. He's even sending money. I can remember monthly because my thing was I don't go to church. I'm going to help him get his thing, and my little small 2 cents. So, and then I would just go back and forwards from say someone like Yvette Carnell, a Vicky Dillard, and Roland Martin. And I even knew of these because Roland kept calling them out and calling them simple-minded and putting them down. And I said to myself one day, but damn, if you're trying to win souls, you can't offend people like that. And he was very offensive.
Yeah, but that's it. Yvette Carnell does the same thing. She really dogs people out.
Not in the beginning, she wasn't. You got to follow her.
I mean, I like both, but they do call out people.
She could call them out, but she's not calling them stupid. And she calls them super-minded. And he's jumping up and down. He's too fat to be jumping up and down and sweating. And I think his head's about to explode. But Rodney said that those people are BS because they're sticking up for their issues, and their issues aren't being. And it's not BS because I would tell you that.
Hold on. Oh, you say I said what people? What people did I say that? What did you say?
The YouTubers.
No, I'm not saying all of them. I said the ones that have BS shows that aren't really focused on.
I'm saying they're not BS shows because I'm gonna tell you that Joy Reid realized the Reid, whatever her show was a BS show because she realized that. She said it afterwards, literally crying and wanted us to have sympathy for after she done tore down so many of those podcasters that she didn't agree with, that she couldn't get in line, that she didn't want them to push their agenda. So what I'm saying, and I'm not advocating for the Republican Party, I realize that we're going to have to stick with the Democratic Party. Only thing I fear is we're going to have to stick with them. We ain't going to get shit because they know we ain't got nowhere to go. That's my problem. But what I'm saying is that the people on the left in the black and the people on the right in the back going to have to come together, and we're going to have to fight together. That's what I'm saying. Because we all want the same thing.
Yeah, the key to victory is around building coalitions. I agree with you completely. Great point.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to play your video.
Okay.
Even like representative like Jamal Baldwin and other ones who have publicly criticized Biden and the Democratic leadership, right? For failing to engage Black voters. And I believe that was a real, and not only failing to engage us, but to address our critical issues. And there was a lot of signs of frustration within the party itself and Black Americans who set it out. Because whether we agree that Obama did whatever he said or did enough, he motivated the people to come out and vote, right?
I agree.
So I don't want to hear that we didn't come out. Yeah, we did.
But we didn't.
I say we didn't because it was really. And when you say, even though we know Project 20, and Jeanette and I stumbled upon Project 2025 before it was even coming out into the public. I don't know how we got it, but we stumbled upon it. Now, if we stumble upon it and we hired these politicians to be in Washington, to be in our state representatives. God damn it, they should have known what was coming down and informed us way before now.
So if you look at it, if you look at the Republicans as a model, whether you follow it or not, but how in the world did Project 2025 or the Heritage Foundation and all of those organizations that surrounded them, how did they in the background put together this plan? And they did this over, let's say, a 40, 50-year period where they're putting this plan together. They also introduced it to Reagan. Reagan probably implemented a percentage of it, smaller percentage. But there was enough to say, no, we can't do that, or we're not doing that. That's not the, and that was the case in Trump's first administration. But in his second, he at least had sense enough to know, we're just not pulling in anybody who disagrees with me. And because I know nothing, I'm going to take that plan and I'm going to implement it, because I really don't know anything about politics, but they do. Yeah. And they guaranteed him that they would keep him out. But what they noticed about Trump as they built the plan in the background, to our point earlier, that this commission doesn't disband just because the politicians said disband, they keep working. So they built this plan, and then they waited in the wings for the right unwitting idiot, right?
Deliverer.
Yeah, yeah.
The right Trojan horse.
Right, because Trump had no plan.
If you think about it, they had it in Bush, because Bush really didn't know anything. He was what, a baseball owner or whatever. He didn't really know anything, but he had people surrounding him enough where they couldn't get to him completely. Right. But they saw in Trump a champion, and Trump had the wherewithal to capture the base, which is the Republican base, and he never let them go. And when they realized that Trump had their base, which was what, 20-something, 30% of the party, yep, that was a brilliant move for them to attach themselves to Trump, because he had their base and they could carry that their plan without fail. Because now you've got the elites in the Republican Party that can't do anything because they needed that 20-something to 30%. Yeah. It was just a perfect storm at one point. Right. Democrats, what's your perfect storm? Well, your base are Black women, right? Black people, but Black women in particular. Well, what do Black people want? What do Black women want? Are they willing to champion what Black women want, right? Even if they, the one thing about the Republicans, they're now getting rid of those MAGA. They're right now telling MAGA, okay, we have rode you, we don't need you anymore, what have you. But if it was a model to follow, Democrats, I don't think, are willing to give Black women what they want. And
other than reparations, what other thing is the Democratic Party reluctant to give the sisters?
Okay, but you know what? If I had reparations and it was paid in whatever way,
I said other than reparations.
Wait a minute, but let me tell you, I don't need student loans. Wait a minute, I don't need student loans. I don't need housing assistance. I don't need those things, because now I have the wherewithal to make these. I don't need a business loan, because now I have the wherewithal to build my own wealth. Reparations, all it does is give us what we didn't get after slavery. And once you solve that, you don't need all of those unnecessary policies that you don't necessarily fulfill anyway. Okay. So you got that unnecessary policy. You don't need to give me SNAP. I can go and buy whatever. You don't need to give me an education loan. I can just pay for it and go to school, right? I don't need you to develop a policy around that for me.
But you're speaking for
Rodney,
Sorry.
I'm speaking for Black folks, yes.
No, just speaking for Jeanette Bradley.
criminal
No, I'm
justice
speaking
reform.
for a group that is at the bottom on everything, that now has reparations, that don't need the kind of assistance that we need, that we're asking for all of the time. I'm telling
All right,
you,
guys,
how
we got
in the
about-
world, how am I speaking for Jeanette Bradley when you're telling me you repair that group of that population in the country that are descendants of slaves? Why do I need SNAP benefits if I've been repaired?
Right. All right, guys, look, we got about 15 more minutes, but Rodney, criminal justice reform, we want to be made 100% American, okay? Period. I don't want to be, we're representing the highest percentage in prison. We're likely to be shot by the police. Those are the things. Let's
But
play.
why are so many of us in prison? Why are so many of us in prison?
We're gonna have to change these laws. That's what we want. Those things that will benefit us in particular, making us whole.
Okay, I want Rodney to address why he thinks that I was speaking for Jeanette Bradley and not for.
Because I completely and fundamentally disagree that issues like police brutality and accountability, the mass incarcerations, health and wellness, a woman's right to choose, that those things are that reparations all of a sudden trumps those things. Poor choice of words. Exceeds those things. I fundamentally disagree with that. I think there are huge needs for African American women that go beyond fixing it with reparations that we don't know what it quite looks like yet. We do know what the potential. We do know what the potential solutions are for these other things around, because there's been legislation around that proposed around mass incarceration, voter suppression,
and we've been talking about it since I know we've been talking about it since 1982, and it is still proposed. And the Black Caucus, if they had any teeth, these things should have already been in place.
No. But fundamentally, I hear that. Okay, and I share your frustration with that. But when you guys say, well, that stuff should have been in place, you just can't make it. You just can't say wave a wand and say poof, it's the law. It doesn't work like that. You all know that.
Why not? You talking about almost 40 years ago? How long did it take us to get the civil rights?
Do you see what Gretchen just said?
What? No, I can't see the comments.
In the comments.
Gretchen says, will Democrats, Republicans, and Independents need to work together as a united front?
Absolutely. But it would never happen because we have to understand the white man. It would never happen.
No,
now, do you want us to get to your video?
Okay, let's get to your video, but I would say, to your point, Rodney, I understand where you're coming from in terms of fundamentally right now, we need to attend to these issues. And I'm just saying that you don't get to those issues without seriously talking about repair for a group that, and you said that's the number 2 issue versus the number 1, but you absolutely have to they have to go hand in hand, because Black people are tired of waiting and promising. And then as soon as the Democrats get in office, it's one of those things that are on the delay track. That's all we're saying.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. I do think
Rodney has the perspective of about 30%. He's very patient with the party. I think I'm as impatient as you guys are, but I'm impatient about maybe some of the different priorities, which is I guess what makes Black America so fantastic, is because we got different people with different backgrounds that have different priorities. But I think the key is for us to at least find, and this was the Obama strategy when he first got elected,
which is to not necessarily harp on all the stuff that makes us different and where we disagree. Is trying to find common ground where you can then, once you get common ground, you then do what? You build a coalition. And then once you build a coalition,
He didn't do that in 8 years.
you then can no, he did not do that in 2 years, as you know, Mona, because what happened to the other 6 years?
I don't care.
We didn't have, no, you do have to care.
We gave him 8 years.
We lost, no, Mona.
He's supposed to make it happen, Rodney.
Mona, look, you know I love you to death, but come on.
I love you. And what I don't want to do is give what we are fighting for right now to my daughter's children. It is unfair. It is unfair that our people still have to fight these kind of fights. It's crazy.
So guess what? If again, if you all really, really, really look hard at 2025, it is very much akin to stuff that you saw in the 1940s in Hitler's Mein Kampf.
Yeah. Did you not listen to any of our videos? I said everything in 2025 took me back to the what was the name of that book, Jeanette? The Handmaid's Tale.
Handmaid's
Yes. And I had already watched that series.
Yeah.
And this stuff is very scary. It was very scary.
We agree.
Okay,
We agree.
guys, let's take a breather here. Rodney, you introduced in the video, which I thought was really excellent. And what this video tries to do to the audience is illustrate what Project 2025 is. And it kind of talks to you about the key levers right now. It does go beyond the 3 minutes that I'm going to play. So I would encourage you to look at it to get a really good understanding, because Rodney is very, very right. They are 65 to 70% done. First 180 days was supposed to be a whirlwind, and it is just that. So let me go ahead and get that started. We'll take a break and kind of watch it with you. Here we go.
Have you heard about Project 2025? Hey, it's Dan Zimmerman, and welcome back to Illustrate to Educate. In this video, we'll dive into everything you need to know about Project 2025, including 5 criticisms. Remember, if you disagree with Project 2025 or its criticisms, please don't dislike the video, but instead respectfully comment your thoughts below. Project 2025, led by the Heritage Foundation, is a comprehensive initiative designed to prepare for a potential conservative administration starting in January 2025. It is structured around 4 main pillars: policy development, personnel recruitment, training, and strategic planning for the early days of the new administration. Here's a more detailed breakdown of each component. First, let's look at the policy agenda. The Conservative Promise is a detailed policy guide that provides specific recommendations for governing major federal agencies. The guide encompasses conservative solutions to various issues, including economic policies, healthcare, education, and national security. It is intended to serve as a blueprint for the next conservative administration, ensuring that key conservative values and strategies are implemented effectively from the outset. The second pillar is the personnel database. Project 2025 includes a comprehensive personnel database aimed at identifying and vetting potential appointees for various positions within the federal government. This database seeks to ensure that a future conservative administration has a pool of qualified, ideologically aligned individuals ready to fill key roles. The recruitment efforts span across different sectors and backgrounds, targeting experienced professionals who can execute the administration's agenda efficiently. The third part is the training through the Presidential Administration Academy. To prepare the identified personnel for their roles, Project 2025 has established the Presidential Administration Academy. This academy offers a range of training programs, including workshops, seminars, online courses, and mentorship from former administration officials. The training is designed to equip future administrators with the necessary skills and knowledge to implement conservative policies effectively. Fourth is the 180-day playbook. The 180-day playbook is a strategic document outlining the immediate actions to be taken by the new administration within the first 180 days. This playbook is crafted to enable swift policy reversals and the implementation of conservative priorities, ensuring a smooth and impactful start. It includes specific actions for various departments and agencies, focusing on undoing the policies of the previous administration and setting the stage for long-term conservative governance. Now let's talk about the coalition and organizational structure. Project 2025 is supported by...
Okay, I think that's as far as,
Yep.
I think we needed to go on that. It just kind of laid out those 5 actual pillars that certainly are being implemented according to like clockwork. It's amazing.
In the original book that we looked at the document, it told us what we was going to do, and we laid them out. So we have to pull up some of those old videos because we said they told us detail by detail what they were going to do.
That's
we
exactly right.
to lay that to our audience and to sound the alarm. And I just have you to know that I voted for Harris only because of Project 2025, because I understood what that would look like, and how that would reverse everything and where it would put us.
Yeah. And the reason I'm sounding the alarm is that when I took a look at some, and again, there's small sample sizes of some of these surveys and stuff that are out there about the level of awareness that people have about what Project 25 truly is. And the reason I'm up on the table right now, jumping up and down, is that it's about 50-60% implemented in just 12 months, right? Less than 12 months. That's number one. And then number two, the scary part is the awareness. If you were to ask people what are like the 4 components of Project 25 in terms of how it would negatively impact them, they can't tell you. They can't tell you. I did like a back of the napkin survey. I had 10 people who live in Washington, D.C., right? Who are kind of aligned with politics and stuff, right? And I asked them, I said, hey, let me know, what do you think are the 4 pillars of 2025? And guess what? Out of the 10 brothers, and these are all Black men, out of the 10 brothers in D.C. that I knew, I grew up with, and they're pretty intelligent guys.
And educated, may I add. But I bet if you ask 10 uneducated, they could tell you.
Oh, okay, but and I appreciate you giving me that credit, but half those brothers hadn't even finished high school. But I got you. I got you. You're right. But here's the thing. But whether they did or not, the thing is that half of them didn't even know what it was, and so like, what is that? And then the other half could only tell me 1 or 2 things, and it did not come from a place of being informed. And my fear is that that's a reflection of all of Black America. And not only
I'm
is
going to find that hard to believe. I'm not calling you a liar, but I'm going to find that hard to believe in our first completed one year that these people that you may know that didn't know what you said, they didn't know what Project 2025 is.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'd invite you to do this. Send out just a group text to maybe 10 of your friends and ask them that same question, see what the response is. Yeah, I think all of us would be surprised, because I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked.
I'm gonna do that tonight.
But here's the thing, guys. The enemy is not at the gates, right? They have basically taken their ram and gone up to the castle, and they inside the castle.
Yes.
Right? They're inside the castle. And unfortunately, we don't know what has hit us. And if you take a look at our solutions to stuff, which is really around better voter engagement, improved voter registration, all that other stuff, there are now systemic barriers in place, systemic barriers that have been legislated that would make a lot of that work null and void. Same thing with and again, it's been very, very specific, because Project 2025 also engages courts, not only at the Supreme Court level, but at the federal court level, at the state court level, that have been supporting issues and denying challenges to the voting rights stuff. They've been denying it, and that's by design. That's been by design. Same.
So
And
can I ask you this? Why can't we, because it's something I've been saying to different groups, when we realize what Turning Point USA was doing and how they mobilized the organization, that the Democratic Party, the Black Caucus, we couldn't turn around and do the exact same thing, but I still see no urgent, not even from the people. You want to lay the blame on the voters, but how about the people we put in office, that they should be in the schools, in the colleges, making sure that all of these eligible voters are registered voters.
But
I don't see that.
No, I agree, but the answer does not lie with only elected officials. That's y'all, that's me, you, that's all of us. That's everybody, that's every person of color, because everybody of color, they have skin in the game. They really do now have skin in the game. So this is one of those things where this is like somebody coming into your house with a machine gun, shooting everybody up in the house. And you can either sit back and wait for the cops to come, or you can take action. And so we're at the point now where if we don't take action, that will be akin to the death of our culture, our voting impact, our economic development, all the stuff that we say is our ask. Well, guess what? We're not going to be in a position, we'll have zero leverage to even ask, because systemically, with Project 2025 fully implemented, we have no wiggle room.
So what's your stand? You can finish.
No, that was it.
So what's your position on Black, the 92%, I would say, and their decision to step back in this last year? It's been almost a year now. So how do you feel about, or what do you think about Black women's strategy not to be on the front lines in the last year?
I don't think that's the case. I think that there's a lot more opportunity to improve, but I don't think that people have just kind of said, okay, I don't care, blah 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 blah. I'm going to take a step back. I think that's a small minority as opposed to this massive where everybody's kind of stepped the heck back because many folks do know what Project 2025 is. And if they really, and like you all who understand it, you can't sit back. You can't sit back. So my
70% has been implemented. That's pretty much, if I'm 65-70% of anything, I think I'm doing pretty darn well.
Yeah.
Who is supposed to stop this forward movement of Project 2025?
Okay, so my opinion.
What's and how?
Okay, gotcha. My opinion. I'm glad you asked that. So, I really do think
7 minutes.
In a few words, it's around coalition building, because it ain't a Black thing that's going to work. It's going to have to be Black, Hispanic, women, and people finding common issues. Because here's the thing: you don't have to agree on every single issue. We don't, but I think, when push comes to shove, like the three of us, we very rarely agree on everything, right? But guess what? There's some key critical things that we all agree on, and I know we do. And I think that's the same with the country in general. There's some very specific things. Think about it. We go to war. We write history books. We've always talked about sending troops over to stop to totalitarianism, right? We talk about that or not. Well, guess what we're seeing in this country now? That's what we're saying. And it's not just a Black issue. It's a nationwide issue that impacts all cultures, all races, all parties. And this is one of those times where, you got to be all in, because if you don't go all in, I fear for the consequences moving forward, because the enemy is through the gates, and now they're butchering people.
They are before November 2025.
Yeah.
What you said, Black women and men understood that we're all in. Let's all do this together. And they said, let's all go and we're going to vote for Kamala, and that's going to be for everybody. That is the way forward. And they did everything they could to get people moving in lockstep. Afterwards, Black women said, okay, I'm done. And they went out and got their hair done, their nails done, and they had their coffee and they did line dancing and whatever else. All right. Yes, we do that, but we are paying attention. What we're not going to do is go out there and march and fight for you as they are snatching you off the streets. But we are paying attention, but we're not going to do what we did prior to November 2025 because we told you. So we're in FABO mode, whatever that is.
Yeah, I got you. I understand.
So you got the Hispanics and the Asians saying, help us. Why aren't you helping us? And we're not going.
So this is almost like Game of Thrones, right? Where you have two opposing sides, and then you have these factions, right? And you have to go and convince the factions to kind of come together as one and fight a common enemy. That's where we are right now. And
that's where we were. We were prior to November 2025. That's what we said. Now we're on the other side of it, and we understand the consequences of what it is that we're doing and what could potentially happen. The issue is that there's 65 to 70% along the way because we had to step back and say, now, the one thing that I will say is really good is America now sees herself.
Yeah.
If we would have gotten on the front lines, we would have become the whipping boy, if you will, and they would have all focused on us, Blacks, Hispanics, and whatever else, whoever wants to be white adjacent, would have focused on us on that front line, and that would have been the story, enough said, done, right? But we sat back. And now America sees itself. They see what everybody else sees, and we're not quite so great. Yeah. That to me is priceless. We needed this. Now, the next steps, I really don't know, but I need for us to understand one of the best moves we could have ever made was to step back and go have our coffee and to not run out there on those front lines when they did those marches. When the white folks got out there and did those protests, I was doing this. Because if we would have gone out there, it would have been police and all kinds of stuff happening, right?
Yep, I agree.
Rodney, let me ask you these two questions. It would have been like what happened in Minnesota today. White woman shot in the head. Probably nothing's going to get happen to that officer. But Rodney, and I'm not saying this is from you, but what I am tired of hearing that all of this weight to push the Democratic Party over seems like it's on our shoulders. I don't ever hear white people saying that the white people need to vote more. They didn't vote enough. When Hispanics and everybody else, particularly here in Florida, down in Miami, I'm voting for Trump. I'm voting for Trump. We have to stay true to this party. And we are the ones who get the least of what we want.
You know what? It's
I do understand.
Good, sir.
No, I'm saying what she just said, that last part was right, spot on.
I agree completely. I was, three things shocked me in the last election. Number one, the number of brothers who, like 21, 22%, did not vote for Harris, which was crazy in my opinion, but that's just my personal opinion. The other thing was the huge number of Hispanics that voted for Trump, thinking that Trump best reflected their interest, and maybe a lot of it was in Miami because of the huge Cuban population, and they're so anti-Castro, and Republicans have always been anti-Castro. However, to your point, Jeanette, about FAFO, at least in South Florida, that huge
Real
Hispanic
quick,
piece, let me say, in that in South Florida, they found out what
real
happens,
quick.
you
Yes.
know, when you can get played, and they got played. So hopefully
Uh,
they've learned their lesson moving forward. Sorry.
Nope, they learn very fast. They found around real quick, and then start. I don't know, appealing, complaining that we wasn't coming to their defense. Yeah, we can't now. It's dangerous out in those streets for us.
We tried to
Yeah.
tell them. We tried to tell them. We tried to tell them.
Yeah, we would have,
We
they
tried to
really
help.
need, the Trump administration, that was part of the plan, that we would go out there, they would arrest us, have the military out there, and we'd be shipped off somewhere else. That was definitely part. So our not having our young people out there was actually protecting them.
So,
Go ahead.
question to you two: do you all think about movements that have gone on? And you know, I was just taking a look. I sometimes do. I watch. I pull out my old DVDs of Eyes on the Prize, and one of the things that was really striking to me is that the folks that were leading the change movement in the mid and late '60s, or even early '60s, right, were 18 to 24 year olds. The one thing that has been, in my opinion, and I wish maybe your audience, somebody else can clarify this for me, because maybe I'm wrong, but I have seen this lack of political engagement and a lack of civic knowledge, just basic civic knowledge by that demographic. And I blame us, right? Because you know the older folks and stuff. I think we have a responsibility to kind of make sure that they're educated and knowledgeable around how politics impact their lives. And I do think we have an opportunity to use all this modern technology that we have to quickly enhance and improve their awareness of some of the issues that are going on, and some of their awareness and knowledge about how stuff works in this country. Because again, I got, you know, a lot of the folks that I mentor, I asked them the same questions about do they know about Project 2025? And these are, to your point, Mona, educated folk, right? Right?
Yeah. Well, I would tell you,
It wasn't a consensus of folks that knew what it was.
I would tell you in this last election, the young people that I was engaging with was very aware, was pushing it, even doing podcasts, like my daughter, friends, and the people in my family. They're very aware of the harm, and because these people now are entering into adulthood, trying to buy homes, getting out of college, so they were quite aware of what was going on. And if you look at the Instagram and all of that, now a lot of people got a little confused over the Israel and the Gaza stuff that was going on over there, and so we had to really let them know we can't be a one issue voter. You still have to go with Harris, whether she denounced it or not.
Yeah, good point. Good observation.
So, you know, guys, as we wrap up this conversation, because we are down to the wire, remember this: policy does not wait for permission. And I really think Black people ought to understand that. Do not wait for permission. And power doesn't necessarily announce itself. It just bulldozes right in there. So what happens at City Hall and in Congress and in documents like Project 2025 will shape Black life long after the headlines fade. The only real reason is whether we're paying enough attention before those decisions become permanent.
Law. Yep.
Being informed is no longer optional. Being organized is no longer optional. And protecting Black interests cannot be outsourced to anyone, including politicians. We have to do it. We are the ones we've been waiting for, as they say. That's why we have these conversations, folks. So I'm going to say, I need you to stay engaged and I need you to stay alert and make sure you know who's really watching our interests, because if we don't, nobody else will.
So,
Any thoughts?
Jeanette,
Closing.
I would just say our goal isn't to manufacture agreement, but it is to demand honesty moving forward. Because
Yes.
our community, I mean, when we think about it, we deserve more than acknowledgement, is what we've been getting, I believe, in the Democratic, but we deserve, and so I don't say repair, but redress.
Good.
Yeah.
I'll leave with how I started, which is that the enemy is through the gates now. Project 2025 is a threat to undo everything that has been achieved with African Americans in the past 2 centuries. We got work to do in terms of educating and informing people and getting people out here to vote their conscience. So thanks, guys. I really, really appreciate you all.
Hold on, Rodney.
It's an honor to have
I
you
do
here.
want honesty to be in there. A lot of what he has done is executive orders. They have not been in, they all been challenged for the most part. So they're not laws just yet, but they are executive orders.
He being Trump?
Yeah. A lot of his executive orders are being challenged in the courts.
Right.
So some
Let's
of them
be
are.
honest. You don't want to do a fear factor, but we do know it is an issue and we need to be on top of it.
Yeah, and the good news, because of the executive orders, they can quickly be undone with
It
regime
can
change.
be reversed. Absolutely.
I agree. Great point. Great point.
Yeah, yeah. Education is the key, folks. Get yourself educated. Stop not paying attention. We need you to pay attention. We vote again for the midterms, November 2026. I don't know the exact date right offhand. I don't want to guess it, but November 2026. So that said, thank you, Rodney. Always, you're awesome, Mona. I totally enjoy these conversations.
Yeah,
I do too. Thank you. Good
Bye,
night.
everyone.
Bless you. Thanks. Bye-bye.